We only have about 540 residential single-family connections, and of those, about 67 are Airbnbs.
Welcome to this episode of the Building Texas Show. I'm excited to be in Johnson City, Texas, with Mayor Stephanie Fisher. We're going to talk about water, we're going to talk about growth, and we're going to talk about STEM in some really interesting ways in this conversation. But Mayor Stephanie Fisher, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, absolutely.
How long have you been mayor in Johnson City?
I just started my second term this past June, so about 3.5 years.
And what inspired you to serve Johnson City in this capacity and in other capacities as well?
So I served a term as a city council member, and I was seeing the growth that was coming as I was doing my work on the city council, and I felt that it was it was within my abilities to effectuate some real change here in the city and make things better for everybody. And so I answered the call and stepped up to run for mayor.
Well, I appreciate any time people do that because the mayor really is a role that I think is misunderstood across the state.
Oh,
And it differs a little bit city to city, but in reality, it's a volunteer role to represent your peers within the boundary of your city. But that takes in services like water infrastructure, in some cases, trash pickup and waste management, but always law enforcement. And those are not easy roles to manage. So, what is City seeing as you grow?
It just sort of being able to for our infrastructure to keep up with the growth. Growth has been probably a little bit slower but steady than it has been in some other parts of the hill country. We are somewhat hindered by not only our ability to maintain water resources, but also by our capacity at our wastewater treatment facility.
Well, and Johnson City is uniquely positioned at 290 and 281, is how I would describe it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people going through your community to get to Fredericksburg or going through your community to go up to Lake LBJ. What does that look like for Johnson City?
Um, it's unfortunately we do see a lot of the traffic. We don't necessarily get a lot of them to stop, and
Right.
that's our biggest goal, I think, as a city when it comes to marketing ourselves to the state as a tourism destination. Is we're sort of the last city before you get to Fredericksburg, and we want to be more than that.
My boys know you because of the science mill,
Oh, yes,
and for their age, it's really a great place within a short drive out of San Antonio or Austin to
right.
experience the hill country, and then to have something really modern and fun and engaging to participate in. And I've seen a lot of families do that. But to your point, I don't know that they spend the night, and that's
Right.
key for a city's tourism success.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I remember Johnson City as I grew up in the region as a great rodeo town, and I enjoyed the fair and everything that comes into Johnson City that way.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and that's still a huge draw. That's one of our, busiest weekends of the years is Fair and Rodeo Weekend.
So, where do you see 2026? Where do you see Johnson City evolving and continuing forward?
Our biggest goal at this point is just, it managing our water and wastewater, infrastructure and resources. We did a pretty big capital improvement plan a couple of years ago, that required us to increase our, pumpage permit from the, Blanco-Pedernales Groundwater Conservation District. They have not yet approved it, so we're kind of in a back before and forth right now. They had some questions about our growth and things, and we're still in the negotiation process.
Well, that's interesting to me because you as a city are limited by a water entity because of
Yeah.
the river, Pedernales being right there in the middle of Johnson City. But I imagine their questions are valid, but they are
Yes.
stopping you from your economic progress, from rooftop expansion, which I don't think you want as a community at large, but it's going to be there, but you're stuck in limbo, and that's a unique position for the city to find itself in.
Yes, it is. I think there was some previous administrations that made some decisions. I think they put the cart before the horse. Um, and that's causing us to have some questions asked. And they're just doing their due diligence. I'm glad that our groundwater district is doing what they need to do to make sure that we all have water forever.
And we've been talking to communities, mayors around the state, and the water conversation comes up often, the infrastructure and water. Midland talks about its 100-year plan. Lubbock has a similar 100-year plan. But with the hill country, we get rain in 15-year gaps, and we depend on the aquifer quite often for water. Do you have external water sources being piped in, or how does Johnson City as a municipality serve water? Is it groundwater only?
Yeah, so all of our water comes from the Ellenberger Aquifer. It's a minor aquifer off of the Llano Uplift. We do maintain 200 acre feet a year of water off the Pedernales that we hold in a permit from LCRA, but it would require millions of dollars in infrastructure upgrades in order to actually harvest that water. So right now, groundwater is it.
Yeah, and that really does help people understand it is that infrastructure. You can have access to it, but it's the infrastructure to pump it and process it and get it delivered that some cities, if you haven't been doing this work consistently decade after decade, it's an expensive investment to start now to do some of that.
Absolutely.
Well, the last thing I really go back to is that tourism. What is Johnson City looking for in economic growth? What is your goal to get people to start there? Who would you want to invite to come bring their business or build a business in Johnson City?
Well, right now, my number one goal is to bring in a hotel, whether it's inside of the city or not. At this point, we need the tourists to have a place to stay. We have a lot of Airbnbs in the city, but we only have about 540 residential single family connections, and of those, about 67 are Airbnbs. So that's a huge chunk of our affordable family housing. So I think a hotel, more maybe even a boutique hotel or a resort style hotel, especially maybe up on the river, would be a huge goal. I think it would open some of these homes up to be rented by families who live here, and it would bring the tourism dollars that we really need in order to thrive as a community.
Well, and that's part of the hill country concern with housing is the affordability.
Right.
And for people that work in the hill country, they need a place to live as well. And so we see that up and down 290 as a big opportunity. And I think Johnson City is a great place for somebody to put a hotel because of all that 281 traffic, the 290 traffic. And then Johnson City is a great place to visit. And I want to encourage people to come down to the Science Mill, but also find a way to explore further than that in Johnson City because there's a tremendous history with LBJ in the region and everything that has happened in the Johnson City area.
Absolutely. Because we not only do we have the Science Mill, we also have the LBJ National Historic Park, both the Texas White House out in Stonewall and the Boyhood Home here. As in addition, there's the old settlement that's right attached to actually to the Science Mill, and then just north of town we have the Exotic Resort Zoo, which is a really fun drive-through zoo. So we have a lot of ways to entertain families and especially children here.
Well, and from Johnson City, you can go to throughout the hill country in a day trip pretty easily.
Oh,
So if you're
absolutely.
coming in from Houston, it's a great place to position yourself so that you can make all of the little jaunts that you want to do while you're in the region. But then at night you can enjoy the slower pace and great food that's in Johnson City as well.
Absolutely. We've got some great nightlife and we've got some great restaurants. There's plenty to do here in the evenings and at night.
Well, Mayor Fisher, it's been an absolute pleasure to visit with you today, learn more about Johnson City and the challenges that come with growth on a major highway like you are, but then also the opportunities coming in and a call for a hotel or some type of hotelier to look at the region and say, this is a great place to put your next property.
It definitely is.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you have a great week.
All right. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Building Texas Show. Please like and subscribe on YouTube to follow along as we travel the state building Texas. Thank you to our sponsor, Chisos Boots, and their damn comfortable cowboy boots.